Hey people, it's Warren here again with Copeland Small Engine Repair. Welcome back. Today I got a Stihl grass trimmer on the workbench, pull ropes hanging out of it, and he said before that happened it wouldn't run right, so let's get into it and see what's going on with this one. Alright, the first thing we got to do is fix this pull rope so we can even crank the thing. So you see the pull rope's just hanging out of it. It don't do anything, so let's get the pull mechanism off of it. We'll see what's going on with that. Don't feel like anything's messed up. The pawl seems okay. All that seems to be working. Ah, you feel that? That tells me the end of the spring has come off in there, and that's why the rope's hanging out of it. So I'm going to take this little clip off of this thing right here. Take this little washer off of here. I'm going to pull the pawl out so it don't fly away. I'm going to take this pulley off of here. And you can see, if I can point to this, you can get some light in here. Where did it go? Right there. I don't know if you can see that. Right there is the end of this spring, this coiled up spring in here. The end of it is broken off right there. So when you try to pull this rope, the outside end of this spring isn't anchored anywhere. It's supposed to be anchored. It's supposed to be anchored right here. Let me get on here. Let me get a light. Working in this dungeon out here. But you can see, man, this is tricky. If I can turn this and try to show y'all. Point to it with this. See that little round spot right there? That right there. That little round hole right there. The end of the spring is supposed to have a little hook on the end of it, and it goes through this little groove and it's hooked on right there. And that's what anchors the outside of this spring, so when you pull on it, it will wind up. Well, since it's broken off, when you pull on the rope, the whole spring is just spinning around in there, and it won't create any tension. So I'm going to take the spring out of here and see if I can bend that little hook back in there, if it's broken off. I don't see it in there. Of course, if it broke off, the end may have fallen out somewhere, but it may just be straightened out. So just for fun, I'm going to pull this out. And they go berserk when you pull them out. Let's find the end. See that? The end of it's been straightened out. And this is the tool I made years ago. I got a video about this. It's just a piece of PVC pipe with a bolt shoved in it. I got like several nuts on this bolt, and it's just forced in there just to make this little tool. And you see it's got a couple slots on the end of it. And I'll put this in a drill. I'll put it down on here and put the end of this in one of these notches, and I'll hit that drill and just wind this spring up. You don't want to bend this too many times, because you bend it too many times and it will weaken that metal. So I'm going to cut that off so I can bend this the right way with a fresh tip on it, so it's a lot stronger. So I'm going to be winding it this way. I got to kind of get an idea of this in my head. No, that ain't going to work. It's got to be like this. Okay, so I'm going to be winding it. I had to turn it over. It's kind of tricky to get this in your head, how this thing's going to wind up when it's laying on the table. Now, if it's going to wind this way, my hook has to be curved this way, so bear with me here. I got to bend this. And I got a pretty good bit of room in there, so I'm going to put a little bit of lead on it. That just snapped off. It may be too brittle. Some of this spring material, trying to bend it without breaking it or heating it up is kind of a pain. I'm getting it in there though. Alrighty. Okay, I got the bend in there. I think I got everything twisting and going the way it should be. I'm gonna get my drill back over here. Now I'm gonna have to turn this backwards. So I got my drill in reverse. Now I'm gonna set my, I need the skinny slot on that. About half the time I can do this on the first shot, and sometimes, man, it takes a few shots. And this little hook will hang on everything it can touch. It will not stay laid down. I need to make a board with a hole in it that this white piece will barely slide through, so I could just use that board to keep it laying flat. I haven't really perfected this little invention yet. Now, I've got to get this thing out of here. I need a flat blade screwdriver. Maybe I can hold that spring down. I'm gonna hold it right. Boy, that sucker. Man, those things are strong now. I got it out. Now, I'm going to get this over here and get it ready. I'm going to slide this over the edge of this table and let the inside of it unwind. Just worry about holding the outside of it compressed. Let the inside of it unwind. Holy crap, Ola. Just like that. And man, you talk about a monster wanting to be let go. It's amazing how strong these are. Now, I'm going to take a pair of needle nose and I'm going to, holy crap. I'm going to hold this sucker down and I'm going to squeeze this whole spring. I'm going to squeeze the hell out of it like that with some needle nose. I'm going to put it down in this hole. I got the hook around the little round spot where it goes. I got to let my needle nose slip a little bit so I can get it to go all the way down. Wait a minute, I got to push this over and push it down in that slot. I'm putting the hook in there first. Now I'm going to slowly let go of this spring and let it unwind down in here till it's completely relaxed. Just take your time and let it unwind. Bam. And now you see the end of the spring is hooked back around that little spot that keeps the end of it secured. So now when you wind the spring up, it will wind up and it won't just keep spinning in this hole. Okay, now we gotta get the pulley in there, and there's a gap. There's a gap in this pulley. See this gap right here? See that? The end of the spring in the center with that little curl on the end of it has to go in this little gap right here, and that's what hangs on to the pulley when you wind it up. So I'm going to cut the rope out of this. I'm going to pull the end of it out of there. So I got the rope out of there. Get this rope out of my way. Now I just got to put this in there, and you want the end of the spring that's in the center right there. Right there. You want the end of that with the loop on it in this gap right here on the bottom side of this pulley, that gap right there. So let me just put that in there. Voila. And before you put anything on it, look at where your rope comes in right here, and you want to spin it toward that rope like you're winding it up, and see if everything's gonna, see if it's gonna be spring loaded. So that's working. So now we got to put our pawl and our clip and our little washer back on here. So we take our little, this is called a pawl, P-A-W-L, this little thing. And it's got a space for 2 of them, but a lot of this stuff only has 1. It's not missing, it just had 1 to start with. So we're going to put that in there like that. And the washer goes on next. Little silver washer. And our little clip, this little thing here, goes on last. And you got to make sure this washer is down around that orange plastic standout right there. So I'm gonna make sure that's on there. I'm gonna get my pawl on there. Put it around one side. Now I can't remember which direction my pawl was pointing, so I'm gonna put it on there. I'll show you how to tell if you've got it on there right. Okay, so everything's back together. And when this thing turns in the direction it would be turning if you were pulling on that rope, this should make that little plastic pawl poke out. So it's working. See, if the rope is right here, the hole for the rope, so it'd be pulling it that way, so the pulley would be turning this way. So if you pull it that way, the pawl pops out. So that's what you want. So that's working. So now we have to wind this up, put a new piece of rope in here, tie it off, and then let it suck the rope in there. So let me get a new piece of rope, and we'll get set up, and we'll finish this pull start up. Okay, I got me some rope over here. Just pull rope. I bought pull rope from Stihl's, and I keep a 100-foot roll of every size they make, from 3 up to like 7. But this notch right here, that tells you where the rope goes in, that lines up with this little hole in here, the hole that goes through the pulley. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wind this thing up. Now you're going to wind it in the direction, like if you were pulling on this rope and you were winding this spring up in here, that's the direction you need to wind this pulley. So imagine you're pulling the rope out of this hole right here. Which way would that spring, which way would this pulley turn if you were pulling the rope? Well, it would turn this way. This way right here. So I'm going to keep turning it. And this is where you'll know if you got that spring in there right, because it won't come loose like it did before. Easy way to do it is put a pair of needle nose in there. And man, this thing got the strongest damn spring in it. It's ridiculous. So I'm going to wind this up. And don't wind it till you break it again. Just get it till it feels like it's getting a little bit stupid. I know that's hard to describe to somebody that doesn't do this every day, but that feels like it's pretty damn tight. So now I'm going to let it back up until this notch lines up with that hole where the rope comes in it. So I'm going to let it back up, and I'm going to hold this spool here with my thumb. Now I got to get this rope in here. And it needs to come out of that hole. It needs to go through that hole so it goes to the center of the pulley. Like that. I just got it to poke its head out in here. So now I need to fish that piece of rope out of that hole. And you can use a really sharp pick, like one of these little picks, to kind of dig it out of there. I need a straight one. You can use a really tiny flat blade. Of course, while I'm trying to do this, I can't find the pick I want to use. Let me see if I can dig this thing out of here. Let me push it in there a little bit. And I just pulled it out. Now when you're doing it, don't worry about tying a knot in the end of this right now and do it. Just pull it out as far as you want, like that. Now slowly let it wind back in with your hand with that extra string just hanging out. Just let that rope wind up, let all that slack just hang out of there. Don't just let it go and spin around like crazy. Do it slow. Give me some more rope over here. And now my spool is getting to where you can see it's dragging because the rope is dragging out here like that. So now I know it's not going to go crazy or go anywhere. I can let go of it. Now I'm going to tie my knot on the end of this rope with all this slack hanging out. Just like that. Now I'm going to pull this rope real slow until I get to the end of it, and it will pull all this slack up in this hole. And right before it pulls this in there, I will take the end of this and kind of tuck it down in there so the very end of it's kind of tucked out of the way. And I'll take a flat blade screwdriver and I'll push this wadded up knot down in this hole, just like so. And then don't let it go like I almost did. And now we're almost done. Right now is where I'll stop and I'll pull all this rope out, and I want to make sure I got a good long pull. You don't want it to be too short. You don't want whoever gets this back to pull on that thing and it runs out of rope and snaps it off or breaks the pulley. So I'm going to pretend like I'm trying to crank this thing. Oh yeah, I got plenty of rope. So now what you want to do when you let go of this thing, I've got my handle right here, the original handle. Let me get this old rope out of it. Like so. And you want it so that when you let go of this handle, you want it to suck up all the way to this thing. You don't want it hanging out. You don't want slack hanging out here. So when it's relaxed, pull it out a few times and just let it go in and relax, and you're going to grab it right there and pull it out. And the way I do it, I take a pair of hemostats and I won't let go of where I pinched it. I'll pull it out a little ways, just enough to give me enough slack for what I need to do, and I'll grab the rope with these hemostats and just let it lay there so I can let go of this end and it won't suck it back in there. And then I'm going to cut this off right where I pinched it, right where it was at the end of that plastic. And I'm going to heat the end of this. I did the other end too, but I didn't tell you that. It's I heat the end of these with a little torch and then kind of go like that with a piece of fabric or a paper towel or whatever, and it kind of keeps this from fraying and coming apart while you're trying to put it in there. I'm going to use a paper towel. Let me heat this up a little bit. My torch is just about done. I cannot get this light. Get that hot. Don't do this with your fingers, because some of this pull rope will have a little bit of plastic in it, and if you do that with your fingers, that pull rope will come off on your fingers, and man, you talk about hot. Now I'm going to take my handle, I'm just going to put my rope through my handle, if I can get it to go through there. This rope, it goes through that way. Sometimes I'll have to take a little drill and ream these holes out because the plastic is a little messed up. There we go. Got the rope out of there. All right, I'm going to tie a knot in this end of it. And let it go down in there. And I'm going to push it in there while I pull on the rope real hard. And then I'm going to take my hemostats off. And we're done. We are ready to go. It snaps back nice and strong. Our pulley's working like it's supposed to. Our pawl is popping out like it's supposed to, so it will hang the little drum on the back of the engine. So let me move the camera. We'll put this back on and we'll crank this piece of junk and see what happens. Okay, we got our pull start ready to go. Now we just got to get it back on the machine. It's got this little rubber nub on this little piece here. You got to make sure you haven't lost your little rubber nub. And there's two other little rubber nubs on the engine that go up in little holes on the gas tank. So make sure both your little rubber nubs are on there. And they go in little spots on the gas tank. So I got that fitted on there. Now we're going to hold it on there. Now we're going to get this mechanism on here. Get that bottom nub on there. Get that on there. Get all this kind of all held back on there like that. And one at a time, I'm going to put my screws on my driver and stick them up in there. Get that one started. I don't tighten them down until I get them all started. One more in here. Okay, let's see if it'll pull. Okay. I'm gonna check my fuel. I'm gonna pour this fuel out in a jar. We'll see what kind of fuel he's got in this thing. See what we're working with here. The fuel looks nice and clean. There's no water in it. It doesn't burn my nose though. This fuel, I can put my nose in this jar and inhale real deep, and it does not burn my nose at all. This fuel's not gonna run worth a damn. So I'm gonna purge this crap out of this carburetor. His running problem was probably just weak fuel. I like to pump that bulb, get all that out of there I can, but man, this doesn't burn my nose. I might as well be sniffing Kool-Aid. That don't do nothing. That's not gonna run anything. Okay, now let me get some of my fuel. This is some ethanol-free fuel with some Echo Red Armor in it. So this is some good fuel right here. I know this will run. I never trust what customers, what's already in a piece of machinery. And the pulge bulb is working. Nothing wrong there, and I know I've pump it till I know I've got my fuel in there. And switch is on. Choke is on. Let's see if this thing will run. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Thing runs like a top. I think his problem, if he was having running problems, it was whatever this fuel is. It's just lost its punch. There's no, you can smell fuel once you've done this for long enough. You can just smell fuel and tell if it's going to run anything. If it doesn't burn your nose at all, I mean, it's like smelling water. That ain't going to run anything. But I think his main problem was just his pull rope spring was jacked up. We got that fixed. We got some fresh, good fuel in there. So this one's done. I'm going to write him up a bill, and we'll go on to something else. Thanks for watching.